Hey there, welcome. My name is Tina Ducharme, and this is the Alignment Keys. This is where I help people to awaken, activate, and to get into alignment with their life. And there are several keys that I like to use to help people get into alignment. And on this channel, I focus primarily on the soul contract. So what I like to do on these videos is team up with a celebrity who's crossed over to the other side, and we walk through their soul contract so that you can see how it aligned with their life's experiences. And then we're going to, we always pull some oracle cards, and I do a final healing mantra, all messages to get us and help us to get back into alignment, because as we all know, life is full of ups and downs, and nobody is an exception to that. And just like a car, when you're riding down a bumpy road, it throws the car out of alignment, and you need to take it in to get it aligned. We also get thrown out of alignment. And so there are a lot of ways in which we need to understand how we get out of alignment, how to identify it, and then how we get back into alignment. And so by bringing through the celebrities, I really enjoy showing you how their soul contracts work. And then we can talk a little bit again about their alignment issues and things like that. So if you're new to the channel, please like, share, and subscribe. And thanks to everyone who watches and who's supporting the channel. We're trying to grow it and get out the messages. Today I have just this wonderful energy. Leonard Nimoy came through, and I'm always excited, doesn't matter who comes through, because it's so much fun for me to start to really bring their energy in and get their messages and start to go through channeling the soul contract. And this one was even more so very connecting for me, because Leonard, being of Jewish descent, ethnicity, was familiar with the Hebrew language. And so there are some things that he did that we're going to discuss in a soul contract, and things that happened in his life that are directly related to the soul contract and how I put the charts together, because it's based on the Hebrew language. And these are things that Leonard Nimoy actually talks about if you watch any of his videos, and talks about the symbol that was used in the Star Trek series. And we're going to discuss that again, about the, kind of the Spock from Star Trek. He was that actor who portrayed Spock. So again, if you don't know who Leonard Nimoy was, and most people do, if you're a Trekkie or you're kind of nerdy like I am, you will know who he is. But he played many, many roles. He was a famous American actor. He was born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts, very poor on the West End, which was all part of this immigrant village very early on in his life. Hey, let's bring up his soul contract, and then I'll continue talking a little bit more about Leonard. And so let's get right into it, because I enjoy so much bringing these contracts up to you guys so we can show you. So this is the soul contract, and I always let all the viewers know that if you're interested in learning how I put the charts together and a little bit more history on the soul contract, I always put a link to a short introductory video that I did quite some time ago last year about, again, how I put the charts together. It's all based on your birth name and the energies. So the Hebrew alphabet, which is known as one of the five sacred languages, translates, luckily in English, translates a 1-to-1, and the Hebrew language correlates to numbers. So that's where we get all these beautiful numbers in his chart hanging out here. And it all, I want to talk about how it all makes sense, and how all of the symbolism, because in our life too, we're always being given symbols from the universe. I talk a lot about messages. If you start to be your own witness and you start to look and listen to what's being said to you and what you're seeing and what you're being drawn to, that can help be a big guidance for you in this lifetime. So I also want to, talk about, I channel celebrities and bring them through, but I want you to understand I don't do that to put celebrities on any kind of a pedestal. They are human. I believe in unity consciousness, that we are all connected and that nobody is better or greater than anyone else. We are all on our own journeys. We all are on different levels of our ascension process. And so I consider us all to be equals. I don't necessarily fan out at anybody, or, I'm just honored when the energies come through and I get an opportunity to really take a little bit of a deep dive into their lives when they were here, because I believe we have many lives and many incarnations. And what did they come here to learn and how to grow? So I do have some notes here because there's a lot going on with Leonard. He was accomplished a lot, as we know. Like I said, he was an actor. His parents were Jewish immigrants from Ukraine, and that was kind of one of the things right now that why this energy of Leonard's came through, and this persona that he had here with Spock, and about this logical, emotional resiliency, and kind of, emotions are this great, wonderful thing, but getting back to a little bit about the warring and how a little bit of this more logical approach and grounded behavior and communication is important for us as humans. So, and doing it from a very, becoming more and more conscious as we go through our lives, that's part of the goal. And obviously, if you're a very young soul, you may struggle, that's why Jesus always, says, don't judge. You don't know what path someone's on. It's because we're all at different levels, and that's not good or bad. There are just different experiences that we chose to have. There's, we come to the 3D world where it's very much light, dark, good and bad. And as long as we're very unconscious, those things play out for us as we get a little bit more understanding as we learn our lessons lifetime after lifetime. It takes some of us a while, and we grow into a more conscious position. Then we can start to do more conscious manifesting and helping the world in a better way to kind of balance out a lot of that darker unconscious energy. So here is Leonard, and he's doing obviously the live long and prosper sign. And we're going to talk quite a bit about that because there's a lot of meaning behind this sign. And it plays right into his chart. So again, he wanted to bring this up because of the warring and things that were going on. And his parents had to leave, kind of snuck out of Ukraine at a time and immigrated to the US because there was another, there was some more genocide going on back then through Russia at that time. So some very similarities again, when we don't learn our lessons and these patterns kind of repeat. And so things happen in this way. It's to awaken us, these wars and things. It's really about our evolutionary growth. And so if you can view it like that and not take on the trauma of it all, we can learn and grow from these experiences. And so Leonard was a birth sign Aries. So he is all about fire, right? He's a fire sign. Aries is driven by these fives and his physical goals. He was very much about fire. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what that means, kind of that symbolism with fire. And so you can see he has a lot of double numbers in his chart. Let me just highlight my mouse quickly. And so he's got a lot of these, what we call double numbers, where he's just picking one set of vibrations to have an experience in. And so with him, he only has one blended energy where he has two numbers that blend together to give him a different type of experience. And when you see somebody who has this much double numbers, it can be a little bit limiting for them because they don't have a lot of energies to draw off of. And one of the, I don't know if it was one of the movies or whatever he did, and it was very similar to when I did Prince's video, where he has a lot of these double numbers as well. And then he had also another, you know, I say, look at the names of the movies and the names of the things that they do, and it kind of tells you the trajectory that they're on. You know, we have all these signs and symbols kind of, I think our whole journey is about that, is awakening up to what's going on beyond this normal societal, cultural, subconscious, you know, programming that we're all inundated with as children. And so with Leonard, he's a dominant 3. And so when you have a dominant number, and this is, 3s are also what we consider a master number. And it takes a lot of work to work through this number in a karmic aspect. So he's picked this number in both of his physical and spiritual karma. So he wanted to work through this number in this lifetime. So what does this mean? So this number is tied to communication and self-worth. It's called the poverty to wealth number. He was very imprinted with a poverty consciousness at a young age because he was from a very poor family. And so he felt he was raised with this idea that I do work very hard to accomplish and to get money. You had to be working. And so that's what we considered poverty consciousness. And it can be a little bit about over striving, over working instead of allowing things to happen, allowing things to come. And so the 3s are all tied to the emotions as well. And it's all about conscious communication, and it's coming out of a canal. So the 3s tell me that he was very shy, and he talks about how he was more comfortable to stay in the background. He never felt comfortable being a leading man, even when he was acting. That he always thought it was because his brother, he said, you know, my brother always took, his older brother was always kind of in front of him. And so he just kind of took that role, and he was very comfortable kind of being in the background, being secondary. Like with Spock, he, you know, was the secondary role to James Kirk, right? Captain Kirk. So William Shatner played. And so he speaks about that, letting, you know, learn that was more comfortable for him. And that's a very much a self-worth issue, right? About not wanting to stand out. And so I'm looking at my notes. I have a lot of notes on him about the 3s. So he took a lot of jobs. He helped support his family even as a child. And so then he would take any opportunity, even later on. So he would do all of these movies. He was so busy. If you read his repertoire and all of the things he did, it's amazing, because he was this belief, you know, you didn't turn down an opportunity when it came to you. But what he ended up is he had these great talents. I want to talk about this 11-2, which is all about, gave him this 11-2s are all about this Venus energy and moon energy. So it's about, so what is Venus about? Beauty and for its, you know, seeing beauty and seeing the feminine. So we'll talk a little bit about that because I'm mentioning that for a reason. And so 11-2s in talents these are very high intelligent people. These are no dummies. And I know when he went to acting school, he ended up dropping out because he was already doing quite a bit of acting already, because he started at 8 years old, which is his soul destiny. Okay, 8, that was not a surprise that he was 8 years old when he started acting, a child actor. When we see people who have 3s, because it's tied to communication, we recommend they do singing and public speaking and things like that, because it's about him learning how to connect his feelings and being able to express and share his ideas with others. And that comes from how you feel. Emotions are really important when you are manifesting. So, and the eights here also tied to him, his overall soul destiny was really about him learning how to ground his emotions and express them, through the spiritual goals, which are sevens, which I call the actor number. If you've watched any of my other videos, this is very Gemini energy. So this is all about people wanting to hide themselves, which threes are also about wanting to hide themselves and hiding behind a persona. Well, Spock was quite the persona. And the reason that I'm talking a lot about Spock is because there's so much symbolism with the threes and the karmic, and the 11 twos are tied to him really becoming emotionally wise and resilient. And that's who Spock was, this very emotionally wise and logical thinker. He didn't overreact. Threes are known for overreacting, knee-jerk reactions. It's tied to the ears. And I thought how I had to get a picture with these ears, because threes are all about listening and two-way communication. So you need to hear what is being said, and you need to let it resonate before you speak, because fives also can be impatient. Threes can be very impatient, and they can kind of have these reactions. And because threes deal with a lot of self-worth issues, what happens is if somebody says something to you, they may not mean it. There can be dual meanings to the way people present themselves, but sometimes when people have threes, they hear it. Threes have trouble with criticism. I think we all do to a certain extent, but threes even more so, because it pushes on their self-worth, which they're already struggling on when you have karmic threes. And so that's where these knee-jerk reactions become if somebody triggers them. I know he had some issues. This would, your karma is your opportunities for growth. So things like that would crop up to give him opportunities to be this emotionally resilient, wise, logical thinker, rather than the over emotional side, because it's really about us being a balance of both. It's not that one is bad and one is good. It's that meshing of the two to get that more conscious balance. And so the other thing too is that his first acting career that he really movie or whatever he did, it was at the age of 17. And of course, 1 and 7 add up to 8. I always correlate things that happen throughout their life to their numbers, because it's to me, it correlates and shows you on their chart that is something prevalent that is going on, this symbolism here with how we manifest and what these experiences are trying to tell us. And so again, and that was when he really knew, that was when he really had that moment at 17, was he knew he wanted to be an actor, because he played a character who was a teenager growing up in a Jewish family, very similar to his own. And it just resonated with him. And he really got a lot of positive feedback for that too, as well, which really, again, it's all about learning about understanding that flow, right? Understanding, because he even talked about flow, how when it's not working, it's like nails on a chalkboard, but when it's flowing, you feel like flying. So, and this is what he talked about later in life. So it's something that we all learn, is how to understand when we're out of alignment. Things feel like nails on the chalkboard. That's one way to tell that something is out of alignment. And being out of alignment is just meant to teach you something. So it's meant for you to go deeper on the issue and to figure out. And so I know that, again, he's had some issues, like William Shatner still considers him a great friend, but they did have a little bit of falling out, because again, like I said, this is a tough karma, and I'm not blaming anybody, but it makes a person have to really go deep, especially when there's this overreaction. And then the 6s bring in a little bit of anger too, about managing anger. And 3s are about really respecting what other people are saying, regardless of whether or not you agree with it. So again, that is a lesson that the 3s are meant to be here. So obviously it's meant for people to trigger you and to, that's the experiences that are going to be drawn to you through the 3s. So again, again, I talked about this as a poverty to wealth number we call. It's Mars energy. It's tied to Mars. That's very much, I call that fiery, passionate action. So we have to make sure when you have 3s in karma that it's for a positive, that you transmute that into the positive side of action. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as he gets later in life, because he started off doing like movies that were more violent, and he was playing characters that were really, more on the violent side. And that is really this energy playing out here for him. But this 11 too, as I said, is the 2s are all about this little spring you see here, because we have symbols, which we'll get to the symbol of the Vulcan symbol that he has there, which I do want to mention again, when we talk, there's a lot of fire going on here. And so the meaning of the word Vulcan is tied to fire. So we've got, and fire is tied to action. So Leonard came here to be very active and to really create positive action. And when you have 7s in your chart, it's creating positive action and uniting people and bringing through this energy of change. And so I think that we can see that he accomplished that. 5s bring, when you have this in goals too, and his physical goals, this is all about pioneer energies, doing things, taking things. 5s take things to the next level. So this is about him. He didn't really know how to do Spock. He didn't really, there wasn't a lot of aliens, and how they had written Spock was, he really worked on that character and really brought a lot of meaning to it. And so that was him taking something and taking it to the next level, and making it a higher, this Aries, stepping out into your truth. Because what he really liked about the whole, Star Wars only lasted 3 seasons. But this character and these characters through the Star Trek world started to just expand, and it grew on into a life of its own. And it was his favorite part he ever played. It was something he loved more than anything. Even though he wrote the book, I Am Not Spock, because 5s make great writers. And that's in his physical goals. And it's all about this creative writing. And so he said that was the one mistake he made, was by titling that, because people this is when he was really trying to, 7s are all about going through life with these 2 separate kind of identities and learning how to integrate them and become who you really were meant to become. And so when he titled the book that, and he claimed that that was a mistake, it led people to think that he was rejecting, because it is a negative statement. I am not Spock. It is a negative statement. And he recognized that probably wasn't the best thing with him having such a positive experience through the Spock character. So the the 11s are all about building your own structure of truth. And so this is why he took on so many different roles. And I mean, this man played so many different parts, but that was all about him, with the 6s being of this creative expression. He had this great ability to, because he was trying to create his own artistic expression, he was able to bring in lots of different roles and things and play different parts, so he could really get an idea of what truth he was really building and feeling. And so this is a wonderful energy to offset this karmic aspect of the Mars of, not knowing how to express yourself, and the self-worth issue, where that's all about beauty. And the 2s would help him to learn the emotional resiliency. We call it, though, the foolish to wisdom number. So when we talk about he made that foolish mistake, it can cloud your judgment a little bit, even in a talent position about the book, not naming the book appropriately, because he was challenged by his publisher on that title, and he was trying to be provocative. That kind of comes from the fives, a little bit of that rebellious nature. And so that didn't pan out quite so well, but he learned from it, and he was very resilient in his failures, because not everything worked out for him. It never does, even for very successful celebrities. Resiliency is all about learning from failure. What we considered failure, maybe his movie not making a lot of money or him not getting paid much, but as he built his self-worth, he was getting paid more for movies. Sixes can be tied into a little bit about taking on too many projects, though, because it's all about learning how to focus your creativity on what you really want. And so he had that great talent, but these threes were always pushing that, oh, and you have to be always have these jobs and making a bunch of things going on because your self-worth is tied to money. And so as your self-worth rises, so does your wealth. And that can be inner wealth or outer wealth. There are many people with threes in karma who have great outer wealth, but no inner wealth. It's about the balance. Self-worth is about the balance of that. Especially that, and when you have an 11 too, it's really about the emotional wealth as well. And so he was working on that as he gained more experience in his craft. Then he soon tapped into the goals of his fives. So fives taking it to the next level, where he became a director. He was no longer just an actor. This is about teaching at a high level. So mentoring and helping other actors, right? So he's just got all these wonderful numbers. I can see them playing out so well with each other in his chart. And so this fives, I do want to mention with the Star Trek about vision, fives are tied to visionaries. Star Trek, who would have known how that was going to play out and how visionary that really was, and how we're still going to see that expand as we continue to grow with technology. And I really, in my own opinion, which is why I, with the ears with Spock tied to the threes and listening, making sure you're listening properly. He always also, because of that self-worth and being an immigrant and very poor, he always felt like an outsider. And he really resonated with the Spock character, because Spock was half Vulcan, half human, and also was an outsider. He didn't really fit in anywhere. And so this really was how he could really take on the, persona of Spock and make it his own. I have my own different opinion about Spock, and I think Spock, because I believe in multidimensionality, and I believe there's other realities, and I know, and I believe in a lot of people who channel entities from other dimensions, and this could actually have been a channeling going on, because I know Leonard talked very much about how sevens too can really get into the character, and he really embodied, and so he really had a hard time when he would come home on the weekend letting go of Spock. It was like it took him a day to get that character out of Leonard, and then he said by Sunday he would get back into Leonard, but then Monday he'd go right back into Spock. And so there was this little bit of a struggle, but he really liked the Star Trek. They really were trying to bring a lot of social justice issues. Something was very dear to Leonard's heart, that, he really cared about people and wanted things to be better for others, having grown up so poor and kind of bullied, and, wanting more for that people didn't have to struggle like his family did. And so I do want to mention the sixes about that. It's creative talent. So he could very overflowing when you have it in talent. So he could be creative in any artistic area he chooses. And so the 11s, again, would get him to build on a lot of different things. So this is somebody who not only was an actor, a director, wrote books, he sang, he did voice acting, he did photography, which we're going to talk about. The 11 twos are tied to the eyes, and he really was very much into photography as well. And so I wanted to just, I had written down like all of the things the photography, I mean, he just did so many artistic, wonderfully creative things. So the main thing that I wanted, okay, so I want to get into how this relates to the charts that I do in the Hebrew language that we talked about. And so when they were trying to come up with a symbol for this sign, this live long, it's hard for me to do sometimes, live long and prosper sign, this sign comes from the Hebrew alphabet. And this is what our, so contracts are based on the Hebrew alphabet as well, 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. And so when Leonard was a young boy, and you can look at his YouTube videos, he will explain this. So I hope I do it justice here. He had gone to a Jewish synagogue as a young boy with his father, and they were doing these blessings, and he was told to cover his eyes because they were going to do the blessing for the SHEKINAH, which is a feminine divinity. And he was covering his head because they said that the feminine aspect of God, which is the SHEKINAH, is, if you look at when they call in the energy of the divine feminine, that it's so powerful that if you look at it, that it could harm you, or kind of scaring people about the feminine. Again, I believe that's a distortion in religions, the feminine, and what Leonard ended up doing was actually helping. It's kind of, Star Trek was kind of this rise of femininity because, okay, so this sign that he did is the symbol for the SH, which is Shin in the Hebrew language, and the SH, which is the SHEKINAH. There's other God names that start with the SH, but that particular sign is in the Hebrew numerology is the 21, which adds up, 2 and 1 add up to his 3 here. And so the 21 in what I do here for the soul contracts is tied to the Divine Mother. And so that is a feminine energy, and it is about fire. It's about initiation, and it's about the fire energy bringing in to help raise the consciousness of the planet. And we're going into the Aquarian age, and that this is all was the start of it. And so the SHEKINAH, I struggle saying that, I apologize, and that Divine Mother energy. And the symbol that Leonard used in Star Trek, I mean, it took like the next day, he said people were doing it on the street. And what it is it's a blessing, and it's a feminine blessing. And it's about us, it's about the burning away of the unconscious ego programming in us. And here he is using this. Nobody even knows what it is, but we're all using it with each other. Live long and prosper. And it's just so wonderfully magical. And so, like I said, it's about, for Leonard, this was about burning away, when you have 3s in your karma, that subconscious ego programming that comes with a lot of, when we embody and our ego is in place. So I did pull out the SHEKINAH card out of my deck here. We're going to look at that here. I'm going to wrap up a few more things, make sure that I touched on everything before I go back to the main screen, or we log out of the, so like I said, his little rebellious from the 5s here, he peaked when they were doing this blessing. So that's how he saw it, when he was at the synagogue as an 8-year-old child. Isn't that funny? And so, and he said it was just magical how that took off. And he said people didn't even understand that they were blessing each other by using it. But what a wonderful, even though that was unconscious, it wasn't. It was resonating with people because even though we come here and the veil's over us, certain things will resonate with us at a soul level. And that was connecting people to the feminine, something that a lot of religions have, pushed down. We've been very patriarchal. That all served its purpose. The will, the divine masculine and the toxic masculinity, and all about the will and the patriarchal cultures. And so now it's kind of, and we all have masculine and feminine. I always say that. So it's not about what gender you are, it's how balanced you are in the masculine and feminine inside. And this was something that Leonard was working on. And I just thought that was really wonderful how that was tying right into the soul contract. And I never knew that until he came through. And then I started listening to some of his interviews, because they usually, when the celebrities come through, they'll point me to certain, I'll look up their names, and I'll start looking through videos, and then they'll draw me to the ones they want me to watch. And then I usually get a sense of what they want me to pull from that interview to talk about in their charts. And so, so I think we've talked about everything. So he did win 3 Emmys. I did want to point that out. He had 2 marriages, which is tied to his emotional resiliency and being able to learn from his relationships and become emotionally wise. He had 2 children, which is also a way for him to learn about his emotions, and that being that loving and sharing and wonderful Aries energy here. So the 6s, I do want to mention about that. Even if you have stuff and talents, you can draw on some of the negative. And so addictions were part of the 6s. And we know he smoked for many years. He quit, ended up dying from the connection to that. He died at 83. He's 91. He would have been 91 now, but he did pass away when he was 83, which the 8s and the 3, and it adds up to the 11, his building his own structure of truth. So I kind of wanted to tie that all up in a little bow for you there. And I did want to talk about 2, when he did become a director, I do have to mention just a few more things that tie to the numbers in his chart. And so he did, Star Trek 3, what was the name of that? Hang on, I think I wrote it down here. It's on the back, that's why. Okay, so he directed 2 Star Trek movies. One was the Search for Spock. I find that fascinating. And Star Trek 3, and then Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home. So this is all about him coming home, being who he really was. Then he directed 3 Men and a Baby, a little girl, the birth of the feminine energy starting to rise, because we were getting to the end of, the beginning of the Aquarian age. And so I just wanted to mention those because I was drawn to those as we were going through what he accomplished and those types of things. So they like to point those out. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen, because we're going to talk about I have the card, the SHEKINAH, that I took from the Kyle Gray Keepers of the Light Oracle deck that I had. And so what Leonard did later in life, because he always loved photography, but he even went back to UCLA to get a degree in photography because he really loved it so much. And then he ended up doing what was called the SHEKINAH project, and where he took these beautiful photographs of the feminine persona through different lights, and it was very risque. It was very, nude. So it was showing the feminine body, but it was so beautiful. I mean, if you get a chance to look at some of those. And so for him, it was very sensual and sexual, but that was more about, and threes can be tied to, they have a high above interest in our sexuality. And he was just really trying to bring out the feminine and really get to that, not in a crude or objectifying way. This was all about really trying to get to the essence of the divine feminine, and why there was such a, and to me it was like, why is there such a fear around our women's sexuality and their bodies, and the beauty about that. And so this is the card that I wanted to bring forward, because it's the SHEKINAH, and it's the sacred self. And so it's unleash your spirit, express your gifts, dance to the sacred rhythm of life. And so the Star of David, which is the soul contract, you see that on the white dove, the purity there. And then you've got the moon on her forehead, and the 2 on Leonard's chart is tied to the moon. And so the dove is tied to the purity. And then you see the Star of David, which is also a Hebrew, which we use to do the soul contract diagram, our, physical triangle that points to the earth, and then our spiritual triangle. So I'm going to read to you about the SHEKINAH is the twin flame of the Holy Spirit. It is the female aspect of the God particle or creation energy. She is more of an essence than a being, but has the ability to show herself in ways that we will understand. She is not acknowledged in the sacred teachings of Judaism, and also called the Sophia of Christ in the Gnostic Gospels. She is a powerful female voice of spirit who is here to bring about equality and to help the world move on from the male-only image of God. She reminds us that God is an all-loving and all-accepting being. Whenever she appears in a reading, she points out the change makers, the love creators, and gift sharers of the world, who are here to unite all hearts around the world. And that coincides with Leonard's bringing out that sign for everybody, his 7s, which is about uniting and really diving into that feminine aspect. And so the other thing that he did with his photography was called the large body project. And so he showcased very large women in the nude to showcase their bodies. Again, it was all about taking real people and taking away this cultural commercialism of always marketing towards women as to how they're supposed to be by, diets and makeup and all of these things, that you're supposed to be this beautiful and you're supposed to look this way. And so what a wonderful expression for him to come into this divine feminine aspect of God. And we need men, beings, humans who are men, promoting this, not just obviously women promoting this. And so I have such gratitude and love for him for supporting those projects, because he and again, he didn't, it wasn't his, like, he didn't go out to do that. A woman came to him first, and then he had her picture in the gallery, and that picture, he said, out of all of the other ones he did, got so much attention. And that was, again, he took that sign from the universe, from source, saying, this is what you need to do. And he followed it. And so that was him learning. Again, when we talk about alignment, how do we know we're in alignment? How do we know we're following the right path? And looking at those signs and messages that we're getting so that we know. So we're going to pick some cards, and he's got me going right away to the Oracle of the Fairies. And the card that is coming up is a very beautiful card here, because I picked it. When I pick the cards for the videos, I do that with their energy channeling. I have them pick, so he did pick a lot of cards with femininity. So this one is protect your dreams. You are the guardian of your precious dreams, and they are safe in your care. Keep them close to your heart until you're ready to release them. And so that's So what that means is when you're in the process of manifesting and you're excited about something and you want to try something new, it's really important for you to keep those manifestations close to your chest, or to only share them with people who you know support you 100%. Because what happens is we get these great ideas from source, and then what he wants you to know is that then we talk about them and share them amongst everyone and trying to get their opinions or whatever. And then it kind of loses its ability to manifest, because there's people start, oh, you shouldn't do this, or you know what I mean? They start to crush the original idea. So it's really important to protect those dreams, keep them close to your chest, especially when you're in that manifestation process. Because again, you know, I think about it when, even when one of my daughters was pregnant, and she had a couple baby names picked out. And so she had told me later that she would not, you know, when we were asking her, she's like, we picked some names, but we're not going to tell people what they are. Because what happened was she had a favorite name and she shared it with somebody in the family. And they were just like, you can't name that baby that. Oh, every time I think of that name, I think about this. And they ruined it for her. And so then so that's a lesson that she took to heart. She's like, I have these names. This is what we want. And we're going to keep those close to our heart and not share them with everybody so that they don't get destroyed. And so I think that was a good plan. And so here we have the council of light. Isn't that beautiful? And so this is the divine orchestration, helpers in the subtle realm. So we all have helpers, we all have our angels and our guides. And so they're all, you can see there's Buddha, Jesus, Mother Mary. There's a variety here of, you know, Krishna. It looks like there's a lot of different ones going on here. And so these are all about that. Again, the soul contracts, you know, it's kind of an orchestration of what you chose to experience. There is helpers out there in the subtle realms. And so like I was saying about him channeling Spock, you know, you can ask for messages. Just always make sure that you're clearing your energy and you're asking things to be given only in your highest and best good for everyone involved. So it has to be done with the right intention and not done with ego, because that can bring in distortions in the fields and a lot of negative thought forms. So you want to definitely connect to make sure you're, you know, the council of light is there. We talk about that before you pick your next soul contract. You meet with the council of light, and they help you to determine what number is in your chart for your next incarnation. And so he wants to say that, you know, his chart, this, you know, a lot of it is free will. Don't get me wrong. I always talk about Daryl Anka, who channels Bashar, another kind of alien being, talks about your soul contract as how free will plays into it is your soul contract. You picked a certain set of vibrations to work through. And so for Leonard, it was all about that poverty consciousness. It was self-worth, really learning how to listen, you know, having that two-way communication, not holding on to the old ideas, being able to let go. And so he went to the council of light is where you go to when you develop your next incarnation and what you want to work on. And so they're helpers in those subtle realms, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And so how the free will plays in, like Bashar was saying, is you're going to have those experiences. It's just how you choose to have the experience. So he says the soul contract's like a hallway. You're walking down the hallway. It's just how you choose to walk down the hallway. Are you bouncing off? Is everything difficult? Is it just super challenging? Or can you find, you know, just let the flow take you and find the right way? So anyways, I hope that made some sense. I was kind of a little all over the place. Okay, so I think next to the animal spirit deck. Whenever I see anybody who has eights, in their chart, they're a higher frequency being. And so they do struggle a little bit with being here in the earth plane because it's a very, very dense environment. And so they struggle a little bit. And I know, I don't know this about Leonard personally, but from what the energy and channeling with him, that he would struggle with depression, which is very common. And that's just really about, again, that, the heaviness of the place, them trying to find their way. But when you have 8s in your chart, if they're not in karma, you're really meant to find your place in society. So he didn't have any trouble doing that. So a beautiful card came up, which is 60, which is the 6, that beautiful swan, right? Swan spirit. And so he brought this very regal, and this is very feminine energy here. This is a pink, and it's time for a deep dive. So, and so when we think about swans, we think about this elegance and this regalness. And don't you think Spock carried himself with that integrity and that dignity? And I'm going to read a little bit here. So when we say time for a deep dive, with their graceful long necks, swans are able to reach into the depths. When swan spirit arrives, you are called to take a deep dive beyond what is easily available on the surface. You may think you know what is best for you now, but take the plunge into the depths of your awareness. For there is knowledge you are not aware of and great treasures to discover. And so a deeper understanding awaits you, and a perspective that comes from greater self-knowledge is what you need right now to better understand a situation or a relationship. So messages for people who are struggling right now: as you come to know yourself more intimately, so too will you come to better know others. So Swan Spirit asks you to go beyond the surface of what is happening between you and others and resist the temptation to judge by superficial appearances. Know there is much deeper potential for loving connections, forgiveness, and mutual understanding. Choose to dive deep into your why, asking the deeper questions of yourself. You are led by the grace of Swan Spirit. And so this, having 3s in his karma, it's really about, like I said before, going to the depths, going to that knowledge that we've carried lifetime to lifetime and allowing that to surface. But you're going to be challenged in your life so that you are meant to look deeper and to go deeper. And that's why those challenges are there. It's all meant to, for your benefit. Everything is here to help you. So we're going to have wisdom of the hidden realms. Okay, I got a couple that came through, popped out here. I'm not surprised. So we've got, of course, we talked about fire energy, the fire prince, optimism. Why all of a sudden I can't say that word? Optimism and aggression. And we talked about 3s with that aggression, and 5s he had, which is actually the optimism, and 4s are all about balancing those. So the fire prince is all about us learning how to balance those energies. And then we had the arrow master. So you see, we're getting this cooler energy, the fire, and then the cooler energy, the blue, the red and the blue, right? And how Spock wore blue. I wore blue today because blue is, throat chakra, it's Mother Mary energy, it's this loving divine energy as well. And so very interesting. Blue is cooler, it is calmer, right, than the red. So the arrow master, hitting the mark, intention and detachment. And so what he is saying is action. Don't be attached though to the outcomes, staying detached, because you don't know what the universe has for you. There could be something better. What if they say is God's rejection is your protection? So keep that in mind, that You know, we have these beings helping us on the other side. Sometimes things hit their mark just like you think they should. And sometimes, you know, you need to balance those energies. So we're going to go to the Mermaids, another feminine deck. Leonard. So we get Solitude and Abundance came out. Okay, got 2 cards again. So we've got Solitude and Abundance. And so again, he had the poverty consciousness, you know, being poor, a lack mentality. And so he had to work through that for quite a while. 3s, when you have that in karma, it takes a while to work through that. I know I have it. So I completely resonate with Leonard at a lot of levels because of, you know, I was very poor, gaining my self-worth. Now I'm starting, you know, had more success now in my career, but it takes a long time to build that over a lifetime. When you have those 3s in karma, it doesn't usually come very easily. So abundance, you know, we all have abundance. We put the blocks in the abundance arena. And then solitude, and he wants to say how important solitude is for us to recharge. I've talked a lot about 5s in other videos about 5s being pretty sensitive. This would make Leonard another pretty sensitive soul. He had the 2s are hypersensitive. He has 5s that are sensitive, and then 8's the higher frequency. So again, somebody who's pretty sensitive to all those energies. And so solitude is all about recharging those energies. Again, when you're out of alignment, solitude can be a very good thing. Meditation, you know, getting away from, you know, reading about the war and the tragedies. And it doesn't mean you can't have compassion or empathy, but being careful about being pulled into the drama of it. So we're going to pick a card here for flow. Yep, this is what I talked about earlier. So, and we have the moon here, his 2s, where he talked about in his videos, what he was telling me, what he's trying to get through to you, that the flow, this is how you talk, how you know when you're out of alignment, how things are flowing, how you're feeling, paying attention, being a witness to how you're acting, how others are acting towards you, and how important the flow is, and to milk that flow. I know Abraham that I listened to, she also channels, Esther Hicks channels Abraham, and talks a lot about, you know, the law of attraction and getting into the flow, and how he said, what Leonard has said about nails on the chalkboard, but flow, you feel like you're flying. And so isn't that so true? How when things are just going great, you just feel like you're walking on clouds and flying in the sky. That is a wonderful message. So on the logical side, the Spock side, I've got the geometry here. So, and again, we have the blue and the red, because again, we're having I see a lot of pink here for the feminine, but again, red is that Mars energy, his 3s, and the blue is the calming aspect. And here we go again with the blue and red, and 38, of course, he has 3s and 8s, and it adds up to 11, the wisdom part of it. And this is about remembrance. So the frequency of remembrance supports our memory of everything that we have gone through as a soul and body, providing us with valuable information and tools to, again, flow gracefully with and in this life. So remembrance. And I'm going to read that one to you from Lon here, because this message of flow and the balance he's bringing through, and the divine feminine, which is about balancing our masculine and feminine sides. And a lot of women in our culture in the US tend to be a little bit more in their masculine side, because that's just our culture has, you know, they don't favor people who are nurturing, and it's as a weakness. And so somebody like Leonard, who has 8s in a soul destiny, this is somebody who is more of a nurture. He wouldn't fit in to a good corporate environment. I mean, this is why he ended up acting and doing the things he did, because it's too harsh. It's not nurturing enough for him as a sensitive that he is. And so this says it's becoming more common for us to have access to our memories of lives lived, experiences gone through, roads traveled, and journeys taken. Our memories are rapidly expanding beyond our current lifetime. Now that we are vibrating at higher frequencies, we are able to access deeper parts of the grids, referred to, of course, that's the Akashic records. And that the Akashic records holds our collective and personal memories of all lifetimes lived. The Akasha of the human being holds everything that the human being has experienced on the earth plane. However, this remembrance is not a linear function of the brain. Instead, it's an elusive and multidimensional aspect of the new human being, a being that harmonizes synaptical brain with the wisdom and intuitive thought of the heart and soul. Sevens were tied to the heart, and the eight's about bringing those emotions down for Leonard. There is an unmistakable sense of ancient cultures in times in the remembrance image, perhaps Native American or the Mayan. And we can see the reference to future civilizations and off-planet connections as well. To go where no man has gone before. Star Trek, we're talking about those future civilizations. It says it right in the Star Trek, that's what they talk about, to go seek out new civilizations, to go where no man has gone before. So this is an indication that time is no longer a linear, absolute, but a vertical, moment-to-moment experience that includes input from many different times, layers, and dimensions. The blues in this activation refer to the clear communication, is threes, that comes to us through our dreams, our intuitive thoughts, and our memories. The indigo and violet indicate the higher source behind the communication that comes when our third eye chakra and crown chakra are open and flowing. Thank you for that, Leonard. That is totally spot on with everything you've been trying to get across. So our final oracle card is going to be from the Archangel Metatron, self-mastery, before we pull the I think I'm going to do one James Van Prague. So, okay, so this is another great card, and it's got 3s and 7, which add up to 10. 10 can be a very karmic number, but this is all about detaching from drama. Look up. And so he's saying how important it is for us to be mindful of what we're being pulled into with others. 8s can have trouble letting go. They can get overly involved in drama with other people. And so they need to learn how to detach themselves from that. So he's also mentioning that self-mastery. Wake up, look up from the drama, detach yourself from it. You're not here to fix anybody else or oh, this is a beautiful card. So I love this. Again, we had the pink and blue. There's quite a theme going here. But this is an awesome card that popped out for talking to heaven. And so, again, we have the dove on here, the SHEKINAH. He really tapped into his feminine side, and the feminine, remember, is where those maternal creator energies come from. So a lot of men wouldn't like to acknowledge that, but sorry, the divine masculine is really tied up into will and courage and protection. And so look at how the two doves here, that purity and I am not dead, we do not die. So thank you for expressing that to us and for channeling Spock all those years. So we're going to just get our healing mantra to end the video. I could just go on and on forever, but these videos get long enough. So I just feel very connected to his his energy. And so he says, yeah. So this is all about inspiring others, which he did inspire others. So he says, I help others feel empowered by acknowledging their gifts. I help others feel empowered by acknowledging their gifts. I help others feel empowered by acknowledging their gifts. And so what he wants me to say about that healing mantra, something that he could have used, because the threes tend to not, because they can be a little blocked in really hearing, they can also be blocked from acknowledging the work of others, or acknowledging because it makes them feel less worthy. And it's a worthiness issue, and it's a very unconscious program, is that he was not acknowledging people, but it's something that threes in their karma have to work on, is to make sure that they're acknowledging others' gifts, you know, that they're seeing that. And that doesn't mean that it makes you any less of a person. But again, threes struggle with the self-worth, and it pushes on that number. So, and it can throw, and they get out of balance with that. And it's meant for them to see that. So that's a wonderful mantra for us to follow. And I put all of the cards we pulled in the description box below as well. Please like, share, and subscribe. And so Leonard said he had an extraordinary life. He took away great lessons, and he has nothing but love for his family and his children, and the people that supported him, his wife, his fans, which he doesn't call fans, he just calls soul family. So that's wonderful. I like that as well. And he enjoyed connecting and showing you that Spock, bringing Spock through to see that intelligent being, futuristic person, that how humanity is going to evolve. And it's not that we won't have love and compassion and all the other energies, but it's he said that there's a bright future ahead. And even when you're seeing things going on in all the warring, he wants us to remember that Earth is a beautiful place. And if you could see it from his perspective now, we wouldn't have so much fear. And so I just feeling the love that he is expressing through that visionary energy that he brought to us. So thanks to him, and thank you for joining me. And I remember that alignment's the key, and that's where the miracles occur. And I will see you in the next video. So thank you so much for being here.